All right, this is what we look like from behind. This image is looking at the back of the head and the back of the neck. Today we're going to talk about the atlas and the atlas subluxation. This atlas is shaped as though it's holding a sphere, which is the skull, and is shaped as though it's standing on a sphere, which is the top of C2. We measure the relationship between the head and the atlas. It has to be orthogonal. That means 90 degrees to each other within 0.5 degrees. We also measure to make sure that the cervical spine is in proper relationship to this atlas. When we get injured, it's the atlas that is more freely movable than any other vertebra. From C2 down, we have two facets and a disc. At C1, all we have is holding a sphere and standing on a sphere. And that's why this is the one that gets injured. Now, this atlas subluxation, when this atlas goes out of place, it can cause a lot of problems with the artery that runs through. This artery runs right through the transverse process here. You got a vein that exits through the transverse process. And in front of this vertebra, you have the jugular vein. And when this atlas is out of place by several degrees, it can put pressure on that jugular vein. Now, the main thing that comes from an atlas subluxation is the cerebrospinal fluid that goes around the cord and around the brain. And when the cerebrospinal fluid becomes aberrant, when it is no longer circulating like it should, then you're going to have all kinds of problems. The cerebrospinal fluid has to go deep into the brain, penetrate all the different areas of the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid runs up, in and around the brain in all the different sections, comes back down through the cord and back into the low back. Dr. Middleton, who invented the MRI, is now making motion picture video MRIs of this cerebrospinal fluid flow before and after an atlas adjustment. He has figured out what normal looks like, what aberrancies look like. He's actually been able to measure the speed of the cerebrospinal fluid as it goes and penetrates all these different areas of the brain. So basically, if you've been told you're a hypochondriac because the doctors can't find out what's wrong with you, then quite possibly it's because it's a technology problem that we haven't had the technology to be able to find out what's wrong with you. But if there's an aberrancy of the cerebrospinal fluid as it runs down through the cord, around the brain, and back out, it could cause just about anything, and the doctors aren't going to find it. Dr. Middleton is putting out some beautiful videos of his research. Watch for what he's doing these days. It's really amazing. But when people come in and we find this and fix this, they often use the word miracle because we're finding and fixing something that hasn't been found, hasn't been fixed, and we're changing their lives. I was in a wheelchair till I got this done to me. I had environmental illness. I was allergic to the world, it seemed like. Food, pretty much any food I was allergic to. Then when Dr. Sweat in Atlanta adjusted my atlas, the atlas was a bone out of place right here that was causing a problem here. When he fixed it, I didn't notice anything for 3 days. But after the third day, I could get up and walk and thrive and put on weight. And my environmental illness became a thing of the past. So have a blessed day.